Hi everybody, I am doing this video. Please excuse my hair. I've kind of developed a trend for doing videos with unstyled hair. Kind of embracing my Jewish roots at the minute, what can I say? But I have recently, well not recently, about a month ago, I put a post up in regards to Manannán na Cléir, the Celtic sea god, the statue that was stolen. And I used the words witches and warlocks within that. And straight away, I had this attack from somebody that said how the word warlock had no meaning at all in witchcraft, and how it just meant an oath breaker, and that was it. And how I shouldn't use that. So I mean, normally when it comes to arguments online, I don't bother. And actually, I didn't. I kind of just blocked this person because a lot of the times I can't be bothered to argue online. I just do what I do and post videos up and that's it, and have valid points. Sometimes I will, but the majority of the time, I think I'm just getting older. I don't know. Anyway, so it actually, I've actually had a thought, and I thought, no, I'm going to post this video because I think this is something that needs a little bit of awareness raised around the term warlock. Now, let's have a look in history. So the term warlock, you've got two meanings here. You've got the warlogger, which is the Saxon term meaning oath breaker, or you have the vodlocker, which means spell singer. A song called the Vodlocker was sung to ward off evil spirits, and that's within the Norse tribes, the word Vodlocker. And the person that would sing the spell, would do the spell, would be deemed the Vodlocker, the spell singer. So, not just that, if you actually have a look into the Oxford Dictionary, the terminology of warlock means a man who practices witchcraft, a sorcerer, war, covenant, and an element related to Liogon, belie, deny. The word was translated in Middle English to a person in league with the devil. Please excuse my ropey pronunciations. It's something I've always suffered with, so apologies in advance. So, even to the point, if you type into Google the word warlock, now of course the internet can be a bit of a ropey place anyway with factual information, but if you type in the meaning of warlock, it will come up on Google, a man who practices witchcraft, a sorcerer. Not just that, you see it around in folklore. So there was a man in 1609 named Kenneth Mackenzie, who was also known as the Warlock of the Glen, who had divining stones, and he used his divination skills. And there was a woman that come to him who wanted to know where her husband was, and he revealed through this divination that her husband was in the arms of two other women, and this enraged the woman, and with that the warlock was hung. You see it a lot in Scottish witch trials, male witches being deemed as warlocks. So it's not an uncommon thing. Now, even to the point of Hindi as a language, there is a word which means warlock. And the definition of that is a male witch or a demon in Hindi. Not even going to pronounce that word because wouldn't even know how to, but have a look, Google. Not just that, there is also the Saxons and the Norse. We know that the Saxons conquered England. However, there was three places they didn't conquer in the British Isles, which was Cornwall, Wales, and Scotland. However, between the 7th and 8th century, we know that the Norse tribes colonised various places in Scotland, and so a lot of Scottish witchcraft will have Norse elements to it. So, for instance, one of the islands that was colonised by the Norse tribes was the Orkney Islands. So, there's a reason for this. There's a reason why I'm saying the Orkney Islands, and you'll see. A lot of the times people are saying, well, it means an oath breaker, or, well, actually at one point in time, the terminology of warlock meant an oath breaker against the Christian church. There is a record of a 15th century priest who was deemed a warlock, and then he was then trialed for witchcraft because he had renounced his baptism and basically given up on the church. So there is terminology there that means an oath breaker, but at certain periods of time, the term warlock was actually meant somebody that went against the church. And it also translated at one point into devil. Now, please excuse the skittish sounds, it's my little bearded dragon going crazy. So, the reason I mentioned Orkney with the Norse tribes is there is a charm known as the Orkney Witch's Charm, which was recorded by Water Trail in the 1880s. And the charm involves a person, the whole point of the charm is that somebody becomes a witch, somebody becomes a warlock. And the person must go to a place where land, sea and sky meet, which is a beach, and lie between the ebb and flow of the waves, with, I believe, 7 or 9, look it up, but it's either 7 or 9 stones in between them. And they say this invocation, and then they throw the stones away at the sea, saying, "Take me with each troll," or each throw. Now, the beginning of the charm goes as such. "O Mr. King of all that's ill, come fill me with the warlock's skill, and I'll serve ye with all my will." Which is basically saying, "O Mr. King of all that's ill," which is the devil, "come fill me with your warlock's skill," the skill of the witch, the skill of the warlock, "and I'll serve ye with all my will." Now, of course, it's in an old Scottish tongue, and I'm not even going to go there because that would just be more of a comedy show rather than a point I'm trying to prove here. So it's recorded within folklore. If you have a look, as I said, to Scottish witch trials, now, we know the Saxons didn't conquer Scotland. Of course, over time, they would have migrated. Of course they would have. However, the likelihood of the terminology warlock in Scotland to mean an oathbreaker is quite... The chances of it meaning spellsinger, the Norse translation of warlock, is more likely than the Saxon terminology of oathbreaker. Now, sorry, I've just got over a cold. Not just that, in the terms of the terminologies that we use today, that modern pagans will identify with today, the terminology of heathen. Now, at one point, the word heathen meant a Jew, it meant a Hindu, it meant a Muslim, it meant anybody that wasn't of the Christian church was branded a heathen. So, today we associate it more with somebody who is a pagan. Even the terminology of pagan, at one point in time, again, meant the same thing. A Jew would have been branded as a pagan because they wasn't with the Christian church, because they did not follow the ways of Christ. And anybody who didn't was branded a pagan or a heathen. Now, the terminology witch, a really interesting one. At one point, the term witch meant somebody who physically defied physics, flew through the air, and ate children. Now, we know that not to be true. We know that somebody's not ever physically flew through the air on a broomstick. I done indoor skydiving last week, so maybe that counts, but I didn't take a broom or a goat with me. I hope you see where I'm getting from here. Now, I had a talk to my mate, and we was talking about the terminology of warlock, and he was saying how he didn't use the term warlock because to him it felt like it was somebody, it was a very fantastical image of somebody that had special powers that went to war, and it was all very magical and fantastical. But then he turned around and said, but the word witch is actually a very fantastical word anyway. So the point that I'm getting at here, various translations of words will change over time, okay? And if we can reclaim the word heathen, if we can reclaim the word pagan, if we can reclaim the word witch, why can't we reclaim the word warlock? Especially if the word warlock genuinely does have ties in with the witch trials. These are not just the only records here that I'm telling you. Have a look, research. People will be branded a warlock. Even in Salem, Massachusetts, the poor man that was crushed to death, Giles Corey, was branded a warlock and a wizard. And, you know, at one point, male witches were also branded as wizards. Now, my point here being, if somebody's going to identify with the word warlock and the terminology of warlock, it's fine. that doesn't give you the right to jump down somebody's throat and to attack somebody, directly attack someone and say, I don't really, and repeat this almost rehearsed script. And I find that quite a lot within the witchcraft and pagan community. They repeat this almost rehearsed script that goes somewhere along the line of, I don't what to use the terminology of warlock because it means an oath breaker against witchcraft, rah, rah, rah. So in the Orkney Witch's Charm, were they saying, oh, Mr. King of all that's ill, come fill me with the oath breaker against witchcraft skill? Of course they weren't. They meant a witch. They meant a magical practitioner. Even the terminology of pagan in recent terms has changed. I recently, in case any of you haven't noticed, I'm originally from East London. Was born in Essex, unfortunately, but I was, no, not unfortunately, it's just the only way is Essex has kind of left a permanent scar on my soul. But I went back to East London and my brother was talking to me and went, oh, what are you saying, bruv? You're a pagan, yeah? And I was like, what? He was like, oh, you're a pagan, innit? You're a pagan. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about, child? Like, read a dictionary or something. But it turns out, among younger people in East London today, the term pagan actually means somebody who is a liar, somebody who is a traitor or an oath breaker, however ironic that may come from. So my point here is, if you're going to identify with the word warlock, that's fine. And if somebody else is going to identify with the terminology of warlock, that's fine. It doesn't mean that you have to identify with that. It doesn't mean that. I have been called many of things, well, horrible names too, but I've been called a witch, I've been called a warlock, a wizard, I've been called a shapeshifter, a spirit worker, even somebody called me a shaman. I don't particularly care. I practice a strand of folk magical practice that incorporates witchcraft from historical and folkloric references. If someone wants to call me a warlock, go for it. I know modern day male practitioners of witchcraft, of Scottish witchcraft, that will refer to themselves as a warlock. So my point here is, don't repeat this rehearsed script. Actually have a look into the terminology of warlock, because it does have ties with witchcraft. It definitely has ties with witchcraft. It's in without history. If we can reclaim the word heathen, why not warlock? If we can reclaim the word pagan, why not warlock? If we can go as far to reclaim a fantastical word as witch, why not warlock? And that's what I'm getting at. That's the point here. So don't jump down somebody's throat when they use the terminology of warlock, because you don't have the right to do that. You don't have to identify with that, but don't jump down somebody's throat. That's it. I just wanted to prove a point here, that the term warlock does have its place within witchcraft and has had its place within witchcraft for quite a long time.